making it appear as if that's the fact, that's the truth. What is offensive is how the entire article was written and how it contextualized the success of BTS. You would think that a credible organization and a huge organization like Billboard, and also aside from being an award-giving body, they're also a publication. You would think that they would make an effort to progress their narrative, to actually provide people a more in-depth understanding of an artist, or even if they refuse to call BTS an artist, of a performer. You would think that they would make an effort to help to contribute in the growth of understanding not just of music but of different culture. But once again, they have fed this narrative about ARMY being so loyal, so devoted like no other. I mean, if you wanted to talk about the ARMYs, why did you not interview ARMYs? Why did you interview BTS? And it framed the success. Worst part is that, again, it framed the success of BTS. It framed it in a way that it did not provide any depth to the artistry. It is as if their BTS has done nothing but nurture their relationship with the fans outside of music so that they could garner such loyalty and manipulate their fans to spend in ways that will help them get to the number one of Billboard Hot 100. It's all about devotion of ARMYs. If you want to talk about the ARMYs, why don't you talk to ARMYs instead of talking to BTS? And yes, those two entities are actually connected, but they are also independent of each other. A lot of the things that ARMYs are doing, that's not manipulated, that's not led by BTS or their organization or management companies. I think the best way to do this, for me to be able to explain what I actually found offensive about the entire thing, is to just go through the chronology of the entire article. So bear with me. He opened by painting BTS. The opening was actually pretty smart. He introduced BTS. He described BTS in the way, from his point of view. So he took the audience to his experience. So he took us through his experience. So he was waiting somewhere apparently, and then he saw this huge group of people pass by, and then a minute or two later BTS came, and then when he has not seen BTS yet, he painted this huge and massive image of a group of people and a huge group of a huge company. And then he saw BTS, and there were 7 ordinary guys, which I thought they were wearing ordinary clothes, loose shirts and loose jeans and sandals, which I thought was a very smart thing to do, because you come from a really massive, like, you painted this image of bigness and legendary group, and then you come face to face with them, and they're human beings from where you are. So I thought that was a smart introduction. And then he went on to talk about how they were bantering about topics of hangover and stuff like that. So again, more effort to humanize BTS. Great so far. And then he talked about how this same group of ordinary men actually propelled HYBE, formerly known as Big Hit, to become one of the biggest organization in Korea. If he did a little bit more research, he would probably have known that HYB is actually now the biggest entertainment company in Korea, bigger than SM, bigger than JYP, and bigger than YG. But he did not say that. And then he talked about how BTS came from handing out free tickets to their show in Los Angeles back in 2014 to actually filling up stadiums, and then their Grammy nomination. Great so far. And then he mentioned the change in the military law, which qualified only BTS because the bar was so high. I don't think there's anything wrong with putting the bar so high. Okay, so it also made me realize that they now have a diplomatic passport. From having ordinary passports, now they have this diplomatic passports. And then he talked about the dangers of their impending military service. and mentioned the accusations of chart manipulations. All of this happened in the intro, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it was him trying to go through, like briefly go through the topics that he was going to cover for the entirety of this article. Nothing wrong with that. But already a lot mentioned in the intro of the article. Good so far. And then he went into mention the breakup. So this is sort of the second part of the, like, second section of the article. So he went on to mention the breakup, and there is something interesting that he mentioned. He said in his article he got the impression that BTS wasn't actually very serious about the breakup, which is quite the opposite of what we all saw as an ARMY during the speech in when they won the Artist of the Year award. It seemed like they were very, very close to breaking up, and they were already in the verge of announcing it. So it would have been nice had Jaehyuk Kwak actually done his research. It would have been nice to have some clarification on that matter. The breakup remains to be one of the most emotional topics about BTS among ARMYs, and it's rarely talked about in respect, because BTS rarely talk about the breakup, so we don't know much about it except for the few sentences that they would throw in here and there. So it would have been nice if that has been explored, and of course, you know, the subject to BTS's agreement. If they answered or they explored, explained about it more, then that would have been nice. So then after that, he mentioned the military service again. Okay, so at first I was like, okay, you already mentioned that in the intro, but again, maybe the intro was just really an intro. He was just going through the topics that he wanted to cover throughout the article. Okay, fine. So he mentioned about the military service and BTS's contribution to their agency. That they are contributing to like 90% of the revenue and stuff. I'm not surprised about it. And then he talked about the chart manipulation. Actually, he talked about the fan base before going to chart manipulation. He talked about how ARMY, okay, so I will quote, he said, and I quote, "Through above board means, ARMY has long exploited loopholes in music chart rules, including those of Billboard, to propel BTS's single performance. Billboard rules, for example, allow people to buy a certain number of versions of a song or album per week, and any sales per version exceeding that cap do not contribute to the artist's weekly sales total or chart placement. For a K-pop group like BTS that typically releases multiple versions of a particular single, including both digital and physical, that can add up to multiple sales per consumer. Butter, for instance, had 6 digital versions plus 2 physical singles. On Twitter, where BTS has over 38 million followers, fans acting on behalf of ARMY will call for assistance in pushing certain singles on days when they can have the most effect on chart performance. So while other singles on the Hot 100 typically rely on streaming for majority of their weighted points, followed by airplay and then sales, the chart-topping performance of BTS's Butter in July, for example, was propelled mostly by sales, the bulk of which flowed directly through BTS's own web store, says a source familiar with the matter. The web store, those sources say, does not recognize prior purchases or limit how many copies a fan can buy, unlike iTunes, which notes when someone already owns a copy. Okay, so he went on length to discuss other things like the tweets of other fans, supposedly ARMYs requesting funds and asking other people to buy the single and that they would reimburse the cost, and etc. and etc. He also mentioned Rodrigo's failure to get to number 1 because BTS blocked her single, so she remained in number 2, and other fans of Rodrigo being offended and saying that this is chart manipulation, that BTS actually do not have the general public support, and that's what's going to keep the song in number 1. So there's certain things. I'm not gonna comment on what the fans of other singers said. That's their opinion, but the writer himself failed to mention that this is not the first time a K-pop fandom actually used this tactic. Prior to BTS, long before BTS, if you've done some amount of research in K-pop at all, you would know that there have been other fandoms who have used the same tactic. They would pull together their money, so that they could guarantee the mainstream success of the band that they are supporting. So this is not unique to BTS. Now the question is, if this is not unique to BTS and if other fandoms are doing it, why is BTS the one that's actually getting this much of a success? Maybe, just maybe, because BTS actually has the volume. They have enough number of fans to make it work and get to number one. But the writer did not actually mention that. The writer also failed to mention that while BTS' success has been propelled by their fans, the success of other artists, and he knows this, that the success of other artists have been propelled by their management company. And you can just leave it to the fans or the readers to decide which one is more authentic. It is the success that has been propelled by the fans or the success that has been propelled by the management company. Okay. Next, the writer also failed to mention that before BTS started coming out with versions, humongous versions of a certain song, other artists have done it. You have Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande with Rain on Me. They came out with a version. You have Doja Cat. I think the song was Say So. They came out with a different version. I think Say So. And then there's Megan Thee Stallion. I love her, but she also came out with different remixes. I think one of the remixes that she came out with was Beyonce and another with Nicki Minaj. So even before BTS came out with different versions of a song, other artists were already coming out with their own versions, different versions of the same song. So are you going to argue that BTS is making too many versions of a song? No one said that they can. So BTS played the game that Westerners were already playing. BTS played in their own game, and BTS beat them. And now we're blasting at BTS for playing the game that we invented. It's like, okay, all right. So and also if the writer was also Kwak was already talking about loopholes, why did he not mention, because he said that armies were taking advantage of the loopholes of Billboard Hot 100, then why did he not mention other loopholes that BTS never even took part of, like bundling your song with other things? You have The Weeknd with like 80 different merchandise on his website for you to be able to bundle his song with his merchandise. 80, I mean, BTS didn't even come up with any kind of bundling, but he did not mention that. And so he didn't say anything inaccurate. BTS did come out with 6 versions of a song. BTS, there are a lot of fans that were actually buying records, CDs, the physical CDs, and are downloading their songs 4 times, 69 cents, but per download. But without mentioning the other side of things, you are putting the success out of context. Unlike some people, I actually don't take offense. Unlike other people, I actually don't take offense when he asked BTS about the accusations of chart manipulations. I would rather have it that way instead of relying on my own mind to form my own opinion, or worse, have the writer circumvent the topic and then form his own opinion and present it as a fact. So yeah, I would rather have it that way. He's a journalist. I don't blame him. It is his job to actually get the fact directly from the source. But because he he put everything out of context, then that very question became offensive. And if you're a journalist, it is your job not to just state the fact, but to also put it in the right context. That's where all of this misunderstanding start, because we're putting things out of context. But the one thing that I appreciate about the article is that, again, it presented me with it gave me new insights on how BTS thinks, and they're amazing. The way RM answered that question about chart manipulation was not just classy, but it's so freaking loaded. I don't expect anybody who who is not a fan or refuses to make an effort to try and actually understand the depth of the minds of BTS, to understand the how much meaning there is in that statement. He said, number one, that is a fair question. I share that sentiment. Whether he said it because he was just being polite or whatever, I don't know. I will not interpret it beyond what the words said. And he said that it's a fair question. But if there is, he said that, but if there is a conversation inside Billboard, what being number one should represent, then it's up to them to change the rules and make streaming way more on ranking. Slamming us or our fans for getting to number one with physical sales and downloads, I don't know if that's right. It's just, it feels like we're easy targets because we're a boy band, a K-pop act, and we have this high fan loyalty. It tells me, number one, that they are very, very much aware on how they're being slammed, how they're being degraded, how people are talking down on them, how they are being criticized unfairly. And they're all aware of it. But they've always been very respectful towards these people. It just shows their class. And then the other side is that they're telling Billboard, it's your problem and you're blaming it on us. We fared fairly. They did. They played fair and square. They beat everybody fair and square, and you're blaming us for the victory. And then there's that part about slamming us and our fans. It feels like he's saying, before all of this happened, when others were exploiting the loopholes of your rules, you didn't say anything. You're saying something because we're easy targets, because we're a K-pop act, and because we're a boy band. It's such a loaded statement, and I hope people in Billboard actually hears that. After this, the writer continued to talk about the fandom, how BTS continues to communicate with their fans through Weavers, an app for fans, and it was just army. It's like they just that's how it felt like when I was reading the article. It was like army. If you wanted to talk about the army, then why didn't you just interview armies? Why didn't you interview BTS? Of course, yeah, those two entities are connected, but still, BTS or their management company never led any of this effort. It was armies themselves who started doing this. And again, it wasn't like they were the first one who did it. So why don't you get the perspective of the people who are actually doing it, instead of getting it from getting the perspective of the band, who's already millions of times talked about the armies? Just get the opinion, get the statement directly from the armies that are doing this, right? I think that would have provided the article more depth, and it would have made the article original and unique. Then it talked about how the pandemic affected BTS and their future plans. So they said that another thing that I liked about the article was when they were asked what kind of legacy they were going to leave behind, and what they will be known for, and I think it was RM who said that it's hard to say once everything dies down, once they come down from their pedestal. And it was such a telling statement, because you know that they are very much in touch with the fact that it's going to end, that all of this glory, all of this fame is going to end someday. They're going to come down from their pedestal, and then when the dust settles, they will know what kind of impact that they have created, and they will know how people will actually know them. But for now, they're at the eye of the storm, and it's so hard when everything is in chaos. It's so hard to see the clear lines, it's hard to see accurately. So again, very telling. And then it ended with the legendary statement of Jin when he talked about the breakup, when he said, "Screw the agency, screw everything. Let's just have faith in each other and our fans, and let's keep on going," which was a very, very appropriate ending, I thought. And that's a very, very, it says a lot about the disposition of BTS So yeah, it's not all ugly in the article, but but in general, you know, if I am to take away something, all those all of those substance, all of those significant information that he was able to get out of BTS, that was overshadowed by the immense attention that was put on the loyalty of ARMY, about BTS, loyalty of ARMYs to BTS. So I think I would expect that somebody like Billboard, with their influence, their size, their power, that they would contribute into providing people a better understanding of the artistry and the creativity. I think the loyalty of the fans, the power of the ARMYs, that has been, it's like you know, it has been driven to the ground. It's just it's been talked about thousands and thousands of times. What else can you say about it? Everyone knows that ARMYs are devoted. Everyone knows that ARMY is powerful. Everyone knows that ARMY can do whatever they set their sights on. But there's so little exploration, there's so little effort to answer the question, how did actually BTS develop such a faithful fandom? If every other K-pop band out there, girl group or boy bands, if every other group out there has actually utilized this same strategy, why is it that BTS is the one that's getting this much success? And maybe, just maybe, their pride can actually accommodate the possibility that BTS managed to get this much loyalty, this amount of loyalty, and this volume of fans because they're saying something in their songs, they're doing something in their music that resonates with the fans. You know, just a thought. So I really don't know the purpose of this article, but as I've said, it's not 100% trash, it's not 100% bad, but majority of it is because things weren't put into proper context, and that's why I believe that specific question angered so many people, because it was just taken out of context. If that question was asked but contextualized properly, I think that would have been received even better. So just my 2 cents, and I hope that from here on forward, I hope that this is the last of it. I hope that from here on forward, if there's anybody out there who's going to interview BTS, let's go deeper, guys. Come on. Enough about the ARMYs. Everyone already knows that it's an awesome fandom. Everyone knows it's powerful, it's big, it can do whatever, it can achieve whatever they set their sights on. Let's move on from there. Let's actually examine and ask ourselves the fundamental and the most important question: how did BTS actually do it? How did BTS actually manage to get that amount of loyalty and get that size of a fandom? And maybe we'll learn something. Maybe our other artists will learn something. That's it.